you guys, welcome back to the channel. It might be sort of a snaky Saturday video, but it's actually going to be all about spiders. So let me give you a really quick introduction to me and tarantulas. I've kept them since I was 16. Obviously it's just the odd one as a pet, as a lad. I don't know, when I started my raptor exotics business, my school educational business, I actually always had a couple and still do for schools. But I probably peaked at 8 or 10 tarantulas. I've never been someone that's had thousands of them, a whole room devoted to them. Always fascinated me, as I'm sure they do you. Always handled them. Now, I don't mean I handled them all of the time, but I always had some that I could handle at schools and events. I've never let other people handle them really, but I handle them because my job is making the natural world tangible, especially for many children that now don't get the opportunity to develop an interest unless someone like me goes to their school. Also had the typical New World, the American tarantulas, I don't know, giant white-knee, Mexican red-knee, of course, Brazilian black. Those kinds of, for many of you, very well-known but striking individuals that are relatively docile. However, 3 years ago, quite regularly, I started having the most irritating rash, especially around my neck, that would last nearly a week and drive me mad. And it didn't take me actually. My wife's a nurse. She put two and two together and said, "Have you been doing a talk that included a tarantula today by any chance?" I've developed a real sort of allergy to their urticating hairs, in so much as it makes me really, really itchy, an itchy rash. So now I really hardly ever handle them. And I reduced my collection down to 1 or 2, just so I've got some for schools, rather than, you know, a nice variety. And I've always grown them on from spiderlings. I'm going to tell you for a couple of years, the extent of my interest in tarantulas, therefore, has been 1 or 2, a curly hair and a Chilean rose, pretty docile, that are part of that business. Recently, I've really wanted to revisit tarantulas and looking at some of the old world, those ones that are known for being maybe more bitey, more flighty, less handleable, but not too irritating in other ways. So, on that note, we're going to set up a arboreal or bioactive enclosure. We're going to try something that I've not done with tarantulas before, and we've got a variety of a certain blue species of tarantula turning up to go in there. There's another one above it, another enclosure above, and there's some smaller enclosures we're going to put in, naturalistic setups, just for some slings. So join me making this enclosure. I'll show you the ingredients to it. I'll show you as it goes along. You can put your input in. Very like anything with tarantulas, people have their own ideas, which is fantastic. And having your own ideas is what any kind of hobby or interest is about: developing, changing, trying new things. Some people very much venomous themselves and set in their ways. That's up to you. I like to look at other people's new ideas, what works well, and what's changing in that hobby. So something I've not had a great interest in is tarantulas in the last certainly 2 or 3 years, but now I want to develop that interest again and work with something that I've never worked with before. So for now, in this actual video, I've got no footage of my actual spiders that are going in there, because like anyone that's sensible, I'm building the enclosure before the blooming things turn up. Okay, we've got 2 60 centimetre tall by 30 centimetre wide exoterras. That's what we're going to be building today. We're going to start with this one down here. Obviously, get everything nice and clean, but I'll talk you through the build in a second. Let me show you some of the bits. Okay, substrate we'll come to shortly, but the substrate's a mix of cheap potting compost, sand and some coir fibre mixed together to a ratio that's reasonably light. Cheap potting compost, I've used it for all kinds of inverts and reptiles for years. I go for the cheapest there is. It usually has very little added in the way of fertilizer and so on. Never had a problem. Not telling you to use it, I'm telling you it's worked for me. Clay balls, I'm not going to recommend any particular type. Nip to the garden centre, got some quick. Various decor, cork bark, coir matting to cover some of the walls of the vivarium, which means it can grow plants up and it will be more tactile and snug for the animals. Small water dish and some plants, live plants, and of course a membrane to separate the clay balls from the soil layer enable us to have that false bottom, that drainage layer. Aquarium safe silicone and some black sheet, some black paper, or in my case, some underlay for wood flooring, incredibly cheap from DIY stores and has a nice lightweight rigidity. So I'm going to crack on and I'll show you as we go along. Okay, now I did have a preformed background which we're using in this one. This is how we're attaching that coir matting. You can go all the way around if you want to, or I'll show you why. In my case it was this side and possibly the back if we hadn't had that. Make sure you leave yourself a little gap so the door will close and won't pinch on the matting here. So leave an inch at the front there. Glue it on with aquarium safe silicone. A few crisscrosses and all the way around the edges, because this stuff does over time sag if it's not attached well. Aquarium safe silicone. If you think silicone with the fungicides in, which is nearly all silicone used in household things such as bathrooms and kitchens, if you think that's safe, then build yourself an aquarium from that kind of silicone with those additives and put some fish in there. And when your fish are dead the next day, you'll understand why. And believe me, I've tried it, why people say use aquarium safe silicone. So put that false bottom in here. Clay balls, gravel, and in other builds I've actually used, instead of this, a coarse foam that you'd use in pond filters and aquarium filters. A lightweight foam as a false bottom does actually work well. Okay, let's see how we go. So why not just use coir or coir husk, and why are you using a false bottom? If you're new to Bioactive, you need that drainage layer. That false bottom allows the water to drain down so that it can drain out of the actual substrate, because if not, the substrate will get wet and soggy and it will start to get smelly as it literally putrefies. You don't want waterlogged soil. And the other reason we're not just using coir is to me, the biggest part of Bioactive actually isn't the little cleanup crew, the springtails and the woodlice and things. It's actually the plants. Plants really do help to get rid of that waste. Coir, it's inert. You need a decent substrate really for your plants to grow well. So hence we need that soil substrate, that soil mix if you like, compost mix, and then we need that false bottom, because again, plants sitting in waterlogged soil, the roots will rot off and they'll die. So that's the reasoning in Bioactive. You see these false bottoms and that way of doing things. Okay, so here's the membrane which will stop the soil gradually working its way in, percolating down into the false bottom, rendering that catch reservoir useless. And there's also now the main piece of decor in, because it only just fits and it won't fit in on top of the soil on the side. Why is it on the side, Dave? Because everyone else I see puts them on the back. This is going to be more than likely one of the main hides for the inhabitants. I'll show you why it's on the side and what we're doing here towards the end of the video. Okay, so what's the magic formula? There isn't one. Just do it by feel. This is at least 2/3 cheap potting compost, and the rest is made up with coir, just to loosen it up a bit more, and sand. Again, loosens it up, gives it drainage. Nice and loose, well draining, but holding moisture for those plants. And this is what you're getting. A nice light substrate, but for those species that want to burrow, it will still hold a burrow. All right. Okay, pretty simple. Until the plants grow, we're going to have more plants growing up here, up the sides, some creeping plants up the sides. They're not here, they've not grown, but you get the idea. Nice little walkway up there. This can easily be dismantled, so I can, if needs be, pull away that side piece as and when I need to move animals or anything like that. Couple of things. LED lighting up there, plants down there. If you want your plants to really grow, you really need to up your lighting levels. In here, the room is well lit. It's got individual lighting and the plants grow okay. They grow okay and they will grow and fill at that, but they won't grow super fast, that's for sure. So, back to that black paper, black underlay, black card. You don't want to see through the sides of your aquarium, your vivarium. It looks naff. There's a brick wall behind this. You want it to look like a little tiny self-contained ecosystem. But of course, if that cork is at the back, you can't even check on your spiders really without destroying their webbing if you should want to. But if you put it on the side, you can simply tape that on at the top and you can have a look. So you might think, well Dave, why bother putting it on? You can look anyway and see them more often. Because it's bright round there, they won't be there, they'll find somewhere else to go. But by having it on the side there, looks better, and it's like an inspection window for your animals. It does work well, and it can help you out. So things to add, literally water and some more planting. It's got a thermometer and a hygrometer on here. They were already stuck on there. I tend to use digital stuff now. I'm going to be looking at 70% humidity and upwards. In this room, the reptile room, it actually is always humid anyway, but the false bottom down here, a reservoir of water, will mean this will stay a humid environment. I'm not putting any plastic covering on the air mesh at the top there. If you want to cover this in a sheet of glass or clear plastic or whatever you choose, it will keep the humidity in should you need to up your humidity. I certainly won't need to do that here. Of course, the main ingredient left to add is the inhabitants. They're on their way. I want these to have a little bit chance to settle and grow, but they're ordered, so let's see in the future what it looks like. Quick couple of tips. If you live in a hard water area like I do, then when you're spraying for humidity, dampening down the enclosure, use reverse osmosis water, because the hard tap water here, whatever you do with it when it comes to chlorine and worries like that, what will happen is you will leave a limescale residue on your glass and it builds up over time. It looks a mess, and it looks a mess from the first spraying really, because it dries and it makes those opaque speckles. Reverse osmosis water, it doesn't do that. So there's a tip. And of course, I don't think that looks pretty. So you can always, just like we would on an aquarium, stick some black tape, black card, piece of black board across there, just make it all in keeping and hide that away should you wish to. And while we're in there on the tips, if this fills up and up and up, waterlogged soil, not good for the plants, stagnating substrate. The dart frog guys, the posh ones, they'll actually drill the bottom of the enclosure, add a drainage pipe that they can tap off and drain the water out. If you are overspraying, overwatering, and this is happening, the only other alternative is to pull away at the corner, put a big pipette in there, maybe something like a turkey baster, and just draw the water out. Don't let the water in here become water up to here. Your substrate will stagnate and it will cause you problems. So quite a simple build there. Something for those of you on the channel, you know I absolutely love my snakes and reptiles. I don't show enough invertebrates. I work with invertebrates every single day. So we're going to try and eke those into the channel as well. Why Bioactive as opposed to just naturalistic? Naturalistic sort of looks nice. Bioactive is different. You have got the humidity, the water and the living things in there. The cleanup crew maybe and the plants. Cleanup crew to add. It looks nicer. If you keep dart frogs or you keep aquariums, it's about the whole aesthetic thing. It's probably better in some ways for the inhabitants, if depending on the brain power. Yes, tarantulas are not stupid, but they're hardly a highly intelligent animal. But a bit more tactile, a bit more choice in there for them. It looks better for us. That's why it looks better. I'd rather see them in a large enclosure than in a smaller one. Don't get me wrong, tarantulas live in burrows, behind crevices in the bark. They don't really care, I'm sure, but it just looks nicer having that little mini biome, say like an aquarium or a dart frog enclosure. So that's why I'm doing that. Pros and cons, that's up to you. If you get a Bioactive wrong and it becomes really soggy and smelly and bacteria laden, that's not going to be good for your animals at all. More work involved, you sort of tend into a garden, plants grow, get too big, leaves die off and so on and so forth. But for me, it's about the beauty and the aesthetics as I come into my reptile room, remembering, like some of you guys, I haven't got 200 tarantulas to care for. We're talking probably going to build up to a few. So this project is for Poecilothera metallica. Those amazing Gooty sapphire blue ornamentals, really blue creatures. I'm colourblind. Blue stuff, electric blue, fly killing electronic devices. I could just fly right in there. They just really catch my eye, and I really like that colour. So if I'm going to start a project, that's what I'm going to start with. We've got 5 on order. We've got a little sling from one place. We've got 2 sub-adults, a pair from another, and we've got a couple of unsexed juveniles on the way from somewhere else. Another reason is I really like to keep them together, or some of them together. Now I think 2 of those pairs are currently kept together. Ideally, we're going to have these 2 enclosures with a couple in each, possibly try and, as they mature, all together. I know there's risks involved, but again, it's for the aesthetics. I want to be able to see something out some of the time and study how these things work together. I've only ever kept spiders on their own, but we'll see. Obviously, the smaller slings are going to go into smaller non-bioactive enclosures. They're just going to go into small naturalistic enclosures, easy to care for, easy to keep an eye on, and so on and so forth. I'll keep you posted. I will definitely be revisiting this. If you're disappointed there's no snakes on the channel this week, hang in there. You know they'll be back very, very soon. I can't put out more than 3 videos a week. It is very, very much, when you're really busy running 2 animal businesses, getting 3 videos out a week is not easy. I can't do a 4th that's all about inverts, let's say. Mix and match, stick with it. Don't unsubscribe just because it's not about something you're interested in. It'll roll around next week for sure. The channel's always going to be a slow burner because I'm not going niche. I don't want to just be about tarantulas, snakes, falconry. It's about all the stuff I love, and I just hope some of you enjoy, like I do, the whole of the natural world, and are quite happy to watch a video off at a tangent from your sort of thing. So hang in there. I hope you've enjoyed this. We will revisit this project soon, probably on one of the vlogs. Click that little notification and I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for watching this one, a little bit different.